A major 6.6 earthquake has struck today, October the 7th, 2025, and scientists have just issued a new Mega-Quake warning. They're saying that a double quake could strike the U.S. Pacific West Coast that they're saying is bringing us into movie territory. Wait till you hear the details of this. Let's take a look at the latest headlines so you can see it for yourself. Coming out 2 hours ago, it's movie territory. Huge Cascadia earthquakes can trigger the San Andreas Fault. Scientists say they're saying the warnings of the big one is not one fault, but they believe multiple faults coming together, triggering each other simultaneously. Let's take a look at some more of the headlines so you can see it. A twin threat. Two major West Coast earthquake faults may be linked, so one could trigger the other. They are coming. Scientists warn that destructive super shear earthquakes could devastate California. We're going to be getting into all the details of what it was that they had to say. This coming out, as you can see, a lot of these articles just in the past 24 hours. Now, simultaneously, we have seen the Ring of Fire issue a new major earthquake today, October the 7th. Take a look. Magnitude 6.6 earthquake strikes Papua New Guinea's Leh. Panic at stadiums in a ceremony. Strong 6.6 magnitude earthquake strikes northern Papua New Guinea. Now, there have been no immediate reports of damage or casualties, no tsunami warnings. But however, going back to California, take a look at the activity that's been happening. Today, October the 7th, earthquake measuring 2.1 shakes region close to Belden, California. 2.7 magnitude earthquake rumbles near San Jose. Update, earthquake rattles region close to Alum Rock, California, October the 7th, 2.7. And we have been seeing a lot of shaking over in California. Several earthquakes strike near Big Bear overnight. The USGS says this 2 days ago. Also 2 days ago, a 2.5 magnitude earthquake strikes near Linden, Washington. And also, a lot of people are speculating, why is there so much seismic activity? Take a look at these headlines coming out today. Astronomers are sounding the alarm over dangerous space weather. Scientists suspect that smaller tornadoes of solar plasma and magnetic fields may be escaping our detection, heading towards Earth. And take a look, solar maximum. More storms from the sun could bring more northern lights, potential power grid, technology disruptions. This coming out today as well. We had heard those warnings that a lot of the tectonic plate movement, the volcanic activity, the earthquakes, the tsunamis could be sparked by solar activity. Now, let me know your thoughts. Do you think that's what it is? If so, put a 1 in the comments. I've heard a lot of people message me say, these are warnings from God. God is not happy with what's going on, or he's trying to communicate something to us. If you think that's what it is, put a 2. I've had other people say that this was a result of underground nuclear tests that have gone wrong in the Kamchatka Peninsula by Russia as they're preparing for World War III. If you think that's what it is, put a 3. And I've heard some people say, this is not Mother Nature, this is not God, this is actually man manipulating the weather. If you believe that, put a 4 in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Number 1, if you think that this is the sun, this is natural. Number 2, if you think this is a warning from God. Number 3, if you think that this was something to do with nuclear weapons, potential World War III upon us. Or 4, weather manipulation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the articles, get you caught up on the latest information here on the channel. I like to put it on the screen, read right from it, show you what they're saying. I have everything linked in the description. So if you want to read these articles for yourself, there's hyperlinks. You click them, go see the dates, the sources, know exactly where the information is coming from. Try to hold myself to the highest level of accountability here on the channel so my audience can know and rest assured this is the latest information. Now, do me a favor as you're dropping those 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. Also, if you appreciate the transparency I provide here on the channel, take a second, hit that thumbs up like button. That simple gesture just takes a second, tapping that thumbs up, and it helps spread this out further while we're live so more people can get access to the videos, the live streams, my channel, the updated information. I appreciate it a ton. Also, to stay up to date, it's totally free. Why not go ahead and hit the subscribe button? Pretty much doing daily updates. We have got a lot going on. As you guys know, right now we're in a government shutdown. We are waiting to hear what the Social Security cost of living adjustment is going to be. That might be delayed because of the shutdown. We won't get the CPI data inflation readings coming out if the government is shut down. It's going to be delayed. In addition to that, we're also waiting to see what legislations are going to come out. We're waiting to see what's going to happen in the Middle East with the conflict with Hamas, Israel. We're also seeing Russia and NATO potentially on the brink of all-out global war. And we're also seeing in the Caribbean issues with the drug cartels, with the United States, Venezuela. There's a lot taking place right now, and I'm going to make sure to keep you up to speed on all of it, including natural disasters and warnings coming out from scientists regarding earthquakes. So to stay up to date on everything, pretty much daily updates now, hit that subscribe button to stay tuned to the channel. But let's go ahead and get right to it so that way you can see the latest coming out as scientists. Let's start off with the warnings coming out to the United States, the West Coast, California. They're saying we could see double quakes triggering one another simultaneously. They're calling this a major earthquake shear event that could happen. That could cause some massive devastation. Now, you can see this coming out 2 hours ago today, October the 7th, and it says a future mega earthquake in the Pacific Northwest could lead to the big one among the San Andreas Fault in California or vice versa, according to clues found in sediment cores. So they're saying not only the San Andreas would be the big one, but it would be the San Andreas simultaneously with the Cascadia Fault as well. Let's take a look at what they got to say here. The big one, the theoretical earthquake that will topple their sun-baked paradise looms large in the minds of Southern California. Many imagine that it will unleash from the San Andreas Fault, where two of Earth's tectonic plates grind against each other 30 miles east of downtown Los Angeles. A 2008 study of the big one's potential impact predicts at least 1,800 deaths, 50,000 injuries, and $200 billion in structural damage and losses. Now, a new study published in the Journal of Geosphere suggests that the hypothetical situation could be even worse thanks to seismic shaking farther up the coast. So they're saying what you imagine for the big one coming from the San Andreas Fault is actually likely going to be significantly worse. Now, a burning ring of fire. The West Coast forms part of the Ring of Fire. As you know, that's the Ring of Fire in the Pacific that we have seen shaking quite a bit lately. An incredibly active seismic zone where tectonic plates pushed against each other along the coasts of Asia and the Americas, lurking beneath the coastal waters stretching from Northern California to the Vancouver Islands. The Cascadia Subduction Zone is a 620-mile area where the Juan de Fuca tectonic plate and two smaller plates are sliding beneath the larger North American plate. From the southern point of the Cascadia Subduction Zone, the San Andreas Fault extends parallel along the coast to Baja California, and there you can see a little map breaking down the different locations. Now, reading on, it says the Cascadia configuration, in which strain builds between the plates until it's suddenly unleashed, has the potential to create high-magnitude megathrust earthquakes. The last time it caused a significant quake was 1700, when it produced a tsunami that struck North America and Japan. It might have reached 9 out of a possible 10 on the magnitude scale. The indigenous groups described the event in their oral traditions. Now, in addition to that, we've also heard warnings that this mega thrust could produce a mega tsunami, and there have been warnings of some huge, incredible waves that could hit the West Coast. Now, these systems have existed alongside each other for millions of years, and geologists predict that each will spur a major disaster once every few centuries. Geologists expect such a megathrust earthquake from the Cascadia Subduction Zone once every 400 to 600 years, and every 200 to 300 years for the most consequential area of the San Andreas Fault. Now, clues in the cores. In the new study, researchers from Oregon State University and other institutions drilled through the ocean floor to obtain sedimentary cores, which offer a record of undersea activity going back thousands of years. Now, originally, they meant to collect cores only from the Cascadia Zone, but a navigational mistake took them south to the waters above Noyo Canyon in the San Andreas Zone. They decided to drill a core from Noyo Canyon as well. Now, seismic activity such as a landslide resulting from a quake leaves a distinct sedimentary signature within a core. These signatures, called turbidites, feature a layer of larger grains covered by a layer of finer grains. Now, in the Noyo Canyon core, the turbidites appeared in pairs, one top of the other, which indicates two seismic events occurring almost simultaneously. The same pattern appeared in cores drilled in the Cascadia zone, and radiocarbon dating showed the turbidites were deposited at the same time. So a light bulb went on, and we realized that the Noyo channel was probably recording Cascadia earthquakes, and that a similar distance, Cascadia sites were probably recording San Andreas earthquakes. Chris Goldfinger, a paleoseismologist at Oregon State University and the study's lead author, said in a statement, additionally, they show that the movement occurred simultaneously in both zones in 1906, 1980, and 1992. They may represent direct evidence of partial synchronization of these two great faults, the author wrote. So they're warning that it's not just the San Andreas or it's not just the Cascadia, but it's the two simultaneously. So the really big ones. The cores suggest that seismic activity to the north of the Pacific coast could trigger a shift in the San Andreas fault, unleashing a series of earthquakes and resulting tsunamis that could cause unprecedented devastation all along the west coast. This, of course, could be very bad. The researchers theorize that a chain reaction of seismic activity could decimate vast swaths of the densely populated coastal communities. If I were in my hometown of Palo Alto, California, and Cascadia went off, I think I would drive east. There looks to me like a very high risk the San Andreas would go off next, Goldfinger said. It's kind of hard to exaggerate what a 9-magnitude earthquake would look like in the Pacific Northwest, he said. And so the possibility that a San Andreas earthquake would follow, it's movie territory. So that is one of the warnings that is coming out here. Now, as I mentioned to you, that mega tsunami, it's unreal what we heard could potentially come out here. Now, the mega tsunami, I mean, some of the scientists were warning of, believe it or not, 1,000-foot wave if there was a mega thrust from these earthquakes. They're saying that not 100-foot, not a 200-foot, 1,000-foot wave. And we covered the article, the detail. I covered for you the release from the scientists and what they say potentially could happen if we saw a mega earthquake like that. They're saying that the earthquake would be absolutely devastating, but the amount of shift that it would cause in the ocean floor could generate a wave that is just hard to even fathom. But let's go ahead and take a look at more of the updates that came out today on this twin threat. Two major West Coast earthquake faults may be linked, so one could trigger the other. So here's another one coming out today covering the exact same thing. Two fault systems on North America's West Coast. So this was released. The Cascadia subduction zone and the San Andreas fault. They may be synchronized with earthquakes. On one fault, potentially triggering seismic events on the other, a new study has found. We're used to hearing about the big one, Cascadia, being the catastrophic huge thing, said Chris Goldfinger, a marine geologist at Oregon State University and lead author of the study. It turns out it's not the worst case scenario. Here's the rest of OSU's report on the new study. Goldfinger and the team of researchers drilled deep sea sediment cores representing 3,100 years of geological history and analyzed layers known as turbidites that are deposited by underwater landslides, often triggered by earthquakes. They compared turbidites layers in cores from both fault systems and found similarities in timing and structure, suggesting the seismic synchronization between the faults. In most cases, it's difficult to determine the time separation between the Cascadia subduction zone and the northern San Andreas fault ruptures. But Goldfinger said that there are 3 instances in the past 1,500 years, including a more recent one from 1700 when researchers believe the ruptures were just minutes to hours apart. So they're saying the two coincide. The findings have significant implications for hazard planning, he said. We could expect that an earthquake on one of the faults alone would draw down the resources of the whole country to respond to it, Goldfinger said. And if they both went off together, then you've got potentially San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, all in an emergency situation in a compressed time frame. So warnings to all of these cities along the West Coast in the Pacific Ring of Fire. Geologists have hypothesized for several decades that faults could synchronize, but there has been only one observed example of this phenomenon in Sumatra, 3 months apart in 2004 and 2005. Goldfinger has been focused on the question for decades. In fact, the origins of the just published paper date back to 1999 ocean research cruise. Goldfinger and the research team were drilling sediment cores in the Cascadia subduction zone off the coast of Oregon and Northern California, but a navigational error took them off course about 55 miles south of Cape Mendocino in California and into the San Andreas zone. And this is kind of covering the same thing with the turbidites that we just read before and how they saw the similarities that unfolded. So yet another article just coming out on this regarding these warnings. And here's a little bit more detail into them. They are coming. Scientists warn that destructive super shear earthquakes could devastate California. Let's take a look at this as we're hearing that more and more quakes are beginning to strike. Freedom, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Says, I've lived in the state my whole life. The state, it's always had earthquakes, small ones and big ones. God is warning us we have a choice to live right or wrong. Signs of revelation in the Bible. Thank you, Freedom, for that $10 super chat and for that reminder and warning. Appreciate that a ton. And if you agree, drop a praying hands in the comments. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this article so we can get the latest updates coming out. It says, most Californians are accustomed to experiencing earthquakes, just like Freedom mentioned. But scientists caution that the state faces a lesser-known danger, a super shear, earthquakes, which move so quickly they outrun their own seismic waves. In an opinion article from Seismological Research Letters, researchers from the USC Dornslife College of Letters, Arts and Science explain that these rare events produce stronger and more widespread shaking than ordinary earthquakes. They argue that California must revise its hazard preparedness strategies and build standards to account for the greater level of risk. The scientists behind the super shear ruptures. Now, while California is no more likely to have super shear earthquakes than others, similar regions with large fault systems like the San Andreas, the threat has gone unnoticed for too long, says Yehuda Ben Zion, professor of earth sciences and director of the statewide California Earthquake Center based out of USC Dornslife. Now, the frequency of these super shear ruptures has been greatly underappreciated, he said. Researchers liken super shear earthquakes to sonic booms, just as a plane exceeding the speed of sound generates a powerful shock wave in the atmosphere. A super shear rupture creates shock fronts in the ground once it surpasses the velocity of seismic shear waves, explained Ahmed Elbana, professor of earth sciences and director designated of SCEC. It breaks the shear wave speed barrier in the rocks and produces destructive waves that are stronger than what's generated by a normal earthquake, he said. Now, this additional force can strike communities with severe impacts. Super shear quakes not only spread intense shaking over larger regions, but also deliver what Elbana describes as a double strike, a sharp jolt from the shock front followed by the trailing seismic waves. Global frequency and California's vulnerability. And again, these warnings coming out to the West Coast United States, to California. They're talking about the Cascadia Fault. They're talking about the San Andreas, the two working simultaneously. Worldwide, about 1/3 of large strike-slip earthquakes are super shear. That matters in California, where many faults near large metropolitan areas are strike-slip and capable of magnitude 7 or higher tremors. We cannot say exactly when and where the next earthquake will be and which one will be super shear, Ben Zion said. But we can say with certainty that over the next few decades, we will have multiple magnitude 7 earthquakes in California. They are coming, whether we are prepared or not, he added. preparing for stronger shaking. The authors warn that the current design standards don't fully account for a super shear quake's extra punch. Buildings and infrastructures are generally engineered for the strongest shaking perpendicular to faults, but super shear quakes direct their energy along the fault line itself. Critical structures should be built to this higher standard, and so far they are not, Ben Zion said. To prepare, the team calls for denser monitoring near major faults, advanced computer simulations and super shear scenarios, and stronger building codes. This is a collaborative effort where everybody has to chip in, he said. And I think here at USC and SCEC, with their reputation in the community, this is the right time and the right place to get the efforts started. So more warnings coming out, and specifically surrounding California, warnings of these coming out. Now, in addition to that, as I mentioned today, we saw a major earthquake happening in Papua New Guinea. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Magnitude 6.6 earthquake strikes Papua New Guinea's Lae. Panic at a stadium. The quake's epicenter was located about 26 kilometers from Lae, a city of over 76,000 residents, the USGS data showed. Social media posts confirmed that the tremor was also felt in the capital, Port Moresby. No immediate reports of damage or casualties were confirmed. This article says a powerful earthquake of a magnitude 6.6 on the Richter scale struck near Lae, Papua New Guinea's second largest city, on Tuesday night today, according to the United States Geological Survey. The quake's epicenter was located about 26 kilometers from Lae, a city of over 76,000 residents, USGS data has showed. Social media posts confirmed that the tremor was also felt in the capital, Port Moresby. No immediate reports of damage or casualties have been confirmed. Papua New Guinea's government official, Malam Nolu, who was at the stadium during the incident, described the earthquake as very violent. The tremor struck around 9 p.m. local time, just as mourners had gathered to honor the late Luther Wangge, the governor of Morbe province. So they were having a funeral ceremony at the exact time that it struck. Soldiers were lifting Luther's casket to take it to the funeral home when it struck, he said to Reuters. There was a big rumbling noise like a plane flying overhead. Then the building was shaking violently for around 3 minutes. There were hundreds of people inside. It was packed to capacity. People were rushing to get out of the exits, and the deputy prime minister was calling for people to keep calm. Nalu added that despite the chaos, the crowd eventually dispersed safely. Lae City Police official Mildred Onjish called the earthquake as very huge, noting that the force of the tremor caused widespread alarm. However, both Nalu and Onjish said that they had not yet received any official reports of the damage or injuries. Another witness, who requested anonymity, said that the quake had stirred suspicious fears among some locals, who view the timing of the tremor during the governor's ceremony as an omen. Stirred superstitious fears. Several senior government ministers were already in Lae for the planned state funeral of Governor Wangge, which was scheduled for Wednesday. Now, there has been no tsunami warning issued for this particular earthquake. Despite the quake's magnitude, no tsunami warning was issued, and authorities urge residents to remain calm but vigilant. Papua New Guinea lies along the Pacific Ring of Fire, a geologically volatile region where tectonic plates frequently collide, triggering earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. In March last year, a 6.7 magnitude earthquake struck the remote East Sepik province in northern Papua New Guinea, killing 3 people and destroying more than 1,000 homes. So we have seen another mega-quake hitting today. A very large 6.6 magnitude earthquake strikes in Papua New Guinea. Now, in addition to that, as we mentioned, California, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the shaking that's been unfolding today as well. October the 7th, earthquake 2.1 shakes the region close to Belden, California. You can see here up by Yuba City, Carson City, in those areas. A preliminary 2.1 magnitude quake was detected close to Belden on Tuesday morning. Today, the U.S. Geological Survey reported. It was reported that a tremor struck the area around 5:52 a.m. The epicenter was located roughly 1 mile south-southeast of Belden at a depth of just 1 mile. So That's one in California that's happening. Here's another one. A 2.7 magnitude earthquake rumbles near San Jose. So smaller quakes coming out today, but still we're seeing a lot of activity along the Pacific Ring of Fire. A preliminary 2.7 magnitude earthquake struck Tuesday morning near San Jose, according to the United States Geological Survey. The tremor was reported around 5:37 a.m. and was centered about 9 miles northeast of San Jose, the USGS said. Further information was not immediately available. Also, an earthquake rattles the region to Alum Rock, California. A 2.7 magnitude earthquake reported. You can see this one over there by San Jose. It says Santa Clara County, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, a preliminary 2.7 magnitude earthquake shook near Alum Rock Tuesday morning. The tremor struck around 5:37 a.m. with the epicenter located 5 miles northeast of Alum Rock at a depth of 5 miles. So we are seeing earthquakes shaking, and in addition to that, take a look. Just a couple days ago, several earthquakes strike near Big Bear overnight. We are seeing strikes after strikes unfolding in California, and as I mentioned, all along the Pacific Ring of Fire. A series of earthquakes struck Big Bear area in San Bernardino County from late Saturday night into Sunday morning, according to the United States Geological Survey. The first of which was a 3.5 magnitude earthquake, happened at around 11:15 p.m., a little over 4 miles north of Big Bear and its lake. The earthquake struck at a geological depth of approximately 4 miles. Over the next several hours, 4 more earthquakes struck the same area. At 2:51 a.m., a 3.4 magnitude quake was reported at the same epicenter. Less than 1 hour later, a 3.5 earthquake struck at 3:41 a.m., according to the USGS. Later in the morning, a 2.5 and a 2.7 quake was reported at 5:54 a.m. and 6:20 a.m., respectively, according to the USGS. There were no reports of injuries or damage from the tremors. Now, according to the USGS's Did You Feel It tracker, Southern California residents in the immediate area reported feeling shaking. Some people as far west as Ontario also reported feeling the earthquakes. There have not been any notable earthquakes in the area in recent weeks, with the largest reported earthquake registering as a 2.0 on Friday near Borrego Springs, the USGS reported. So more earthquakes happening, and here's one out in Washington as well. All along that west coast, we are seeing trembling happening all along the United States. A 2.5 magnitude earthquake strikes near Linden, Washington. Let's take a look at this now. The brief. A 2.5 magnitude earthquake struck near Linden, Washington on Saturday afternoon. The quake struck at around 7:25 p.m. northwest of Linden. Anyone who felt the quake is encouraged to report it to the USGS. And here you can see the location on the map. Now, according to the United States Geological Survey, the quake struck at around 7:25 p.m. at about 1.9 miles northwest of Linden at a depth of roughly 10.2 miles. As of Sunday afternoon, only 3 people had reported feeling the quake to the agency. There were no reports of damage or injuries. While many variables are involved, geologists say damage typically does not occur unless an earthquake's magnitude exceeds 4 or 5. So, a lot of smaller tremors striking in the past couple of days along the west coast. And let me ask you yet again, what do you think is causing these? Is the sun the cause of this? We're hearing that there are coronal mass ejections, solar flares that are being emitted that are going towards Earth and are causing these quakes in the Pacific Ring of Fire. If you think that's what it is, put 1. Had people DM me saying, Steve, this is God warning that he's going to be returning. He's unhappy with what's unfolding here on Earth. We actually heard this from the White House. We heard, I believe it was the press secretary come out and say, God is unhappy with what happened with Charlie Kirk and what's going on in the United States. And there was an earthquake in that area that same day. And they said, this is God saying he's unhappy with what's going on. If you believe that, put a 2. And also, like I said, we heard that this could be nuclear detonations going off. That would be a 3 if you think that's what we're seeing, or 4 if you think this is weather manipulation. What do you think it is? Well, let's take a look at these articles that are going to give us a little bit more detail regarding what is going on with the solar activity, as we're hearing that has been up quite a bit lately, which some are saying is exactly why we are seeing all of this seismic activity. The sun, they're saying, is releasing coronal mass ejections towards Earth, and as a result, The magnetic fields of Earth, the tectonic plates are moving and shifting, and we're starting to see volcanoes erupting, earthquakes unfolding, tsunamis hitting. They're saying a lot of this is as a result of the sun. Let's go ahead and take a look at this article that came out today. And here you can see an image of these blasts coming out from the sun heading toward the Earth. Now it says, we have a suite of incredibly advanced, complex instruments to study the weather on Earth. Space weather isn't any less complicated. Quite the opposite, in fact. And one would think that the measures that we take to watch for such events should match that complexity. Well, astronomers, however, aren't so sure that we're doing nearly enough. In a paper published on October 6th in the Astrophysical Journal, researchers created detailed simulations showing huge shifts in the sun's plasma and magnetic fields caused by smaller flux ropes that typically evade the detection range of our existing probes. They argued that this gap in our space weather detection system leaves us more vulnerable to potentially dangerous events like coronal mass ejections, which are powerful bursts of plasma and magnetic fields from the sun's coronal that can damage satellites, GPS systems, and even knock out our electricity grids. So there are major warnings that are coming out regarding what could happen as a result of coronal mass ejections. And we're also hearing that they are saying, I shared with you the research papers that came out back in March of 2025. They're saying they are seeing a direct correlation between these sun activities and Earth's earthquake activities as well. Now, what Earth needs, the researchers argued, is a new constellation of spacecraft wholly dedicated to monitoring solar activity. Imagine if you could only monitor a hurricane remotely with the measurements from one wind gauge, said Chip Manchester, the study's lead author and an astrophysicist at the University of Michigan. He said in a statement, "You'd see a change in the measurements, but you wouldn't see the storm's entire structure." That's the current situation with single spacecraft systems. We need viewpoints from multiple space weather stations. Now, a small filament with big consequences. For the study, the researchers modeled the influx of flux ropes, which are relatively smaller tornado-like spirals of plasma and magnetic fields on the sun. These ropes typically aren't strong enough to trigger CMEs, but under specific conditions, they can fling aside enough energy to trigger devastating explosions, the researchers found. Our simulations show that the magnetic field in these vortices can be strong enough to trigger geomagnetic storms and cause some real trouble, Manchester said. So a better way to track space weather: solar winds only trigger geomagnetic storms when the sun's magnetic field is oriented to the south. Our current space weather detection systems are geared towards this, with monitoring spacecraft placed strategically to measure the strength and direction of the solar magnetic field. What the new simulation suggests, however, is that solar eruptions may emerge from north-facing magnetic fields that could toss vortices with southward-pointing magnetic fields towards the Earth as well, he wrote. Manchester and his colleagues propose that we build a constellation of satellites that they dub the Space Weather Investigation Frontier, or the SWIFT, which would be capable of capturing signals from multiple directions, consisting of 4 probes arranged in a pyramid, with each being around 200,000 miles away from the other. The researchers believe that the configuration would boost space weather warnings by 40%. Earth's last major geomagnetic storm hit May of 2024. Then observers detected disruptions in electric grids, satellites, agricultural networks, and air travel, according to NASA. The storm also tampered with data signals from spacecraft, including NASA's Mars Odyssey, Orbiter, and Curiosity rover. With the sun still in a period of intense solar activity, the star is believed to be in its solar maximum, or the moment in its activity cycle when it is at its most stormy. These astronomers' warnings could yet prove all too prescient. So there you have it. And also, as I mentioned, the warnings coming out about how this could impact Earth directly. Solar maximum. More storms from the sun could bring more northern lights, potential power grid and technology disruptions. Now, this article coming out today as well, you can see more of the world, including parts of the continental U.S., could see increased instances of aurora borealis lights over the next several months. So we're hearing this activity could be sparking up here right now. That's because the sun is at the height of a cycle which sees its north and south poles flipped approximately every 11 years. We're hearing that is happening right now. Dana Longscope, a professor of solar physics at Montana State University, said the solar cycle's maximum activity can mean more visible aurora borealis northern lights in the continental U.S. farther from their usual polar reaches. So we are hearing that this is unfolding right now. He said those lights displays could extend beyond the current solar maximum phase. We will have more dramatic northern lights for the next year or two, Longscope said. The so-called solar maximum also sees more solar storms, flares, explosive ejections from the sun. Those geomagnetic storms and energy bursts can have impacts on Earth beyond more visible northern lights. Increased solar activity can result in power outages and damage to our power grids, degrade global positioning systems or GPS signals, and throw off or ruin the more than 12,000 satellites now in orbit. Approximately every 11 years, the sun goes through a solar cycle, which sees its north and south poles flip. The cycle includes periods of increased solar flares and geomagnetic storms. The solar maximum part of the cycle is currently ongoing and expected to last into the spring of 2026, according to the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It looks like we are researching the maximum, Longscope said. We've had a lot of flares and mass ejections. And like I mentioned, we are experiencing that right now. And scientists are connecting the dots and saying, because of this right now, they believe that is why we are seeing so many mega-quakes. The Montana physicist said there could be other disruptions from solar storms' earthly impacts, those including weakened GPS systems, including more precision applications used in agriculture, construction, shipping, and mining, as well as by the military. It's important in agriculture, Longscope said. More farmers use GPS and satellite technology, including during planting seasons. We are at the peak of the 11-year cycle right now in 2025. Now, the Colorado-based company helps precision GPS users utilize technology in their operations and deal with the impacts of solar changes. Norse said there has been significant growth with precision GPS systems that help farmers with planting as well as with mining, exploration, and construction. It's been growing, he said. Now, he said the GPS used in part of a wave of technology used in agriculture. You can run 24 hours a day in the dark, Norse said. But that also makes the industry exposed to potential GPS, satellite, and power grid disruptions. People working in the mines in South Africa are very worried about this. Trimble has approximately 200 technology stations that help GPS systems and users with precision operation and mitigate the impacts of solar and other disruptions. Longscope said that solar activity could disrupt radio transmissions and communications for airline flights near the Arctic Circle and could cause power outages, pointing to past blackouts in Canada and South Africa in 1989 and in 2023. So we're hearing that right now. There is a lot of solar activity that is taking place. And let me know in the comments, do you think that this is a cause of all the earthquake activity that we are seeing right now in the Pacific Ring of Fire? If you think so, yes, the solar activity is tied to this, put yes. If you think no, put no. Let me know your thoughts. And I saw a lot of twos, a lot of people saying they believe that this is also a warning from God to the earth that something's happening, something's coming, or there's some sort of warning that he is not happy. Let me know your thoughts. Is the sun causing this? Put yes, put no, or put a 2 if you think this is a warning from God. Or go ahead and drop a praying hands. If you're a praying individual, say a prayer for our world if you think that God is trying to warn us of something. But regardless of what unfolds here, I will keep you up to date here on the channel, let you know everything that's going on, as we have seen today a mega 6.6 earthquake hit in Papua New Guinea and warnings of mega-quakes of 9 and 10 on the Richter scale hitting the Pacific Ring of Fire West Coast. Warnings coming out to all of California. We're hearing Vancouver, Seattle, Los Angeles. Warnings coming out of a mega-quake, not made of one fault, but made of multiple faults triggering at the same time. Cascadia and San Andreas fault warnings coming out. So that all unfolding today, October the 7th, 2025. Now, as more comes out here on the channel, I'll be sure to let you know. As you guys know, I cite all the sources, put it on the screen, read right from it. I'll keep you up to speed on everything. And again, if you appreciate that, hit that thumbs up like button. Just takes a second, helps out a ton. Subscribe to stay up to date. It's totally free. And with that being said, that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.